The humans are.
So, welcome to the special interview. This is part of the Greatest Year of Your Life 2019 lineup series. We're going to share different segments, different guest speakers with you so you can catch their wisdom. And so, we're going to just jump right into it. This is Zach Rehder. If you don't know Zach Rehder, you're going to get to know him here pretty well here in the next 25 minutes or so. But I'll just let him take it from here, and he's probably the best person to tell you about his world and his life. So, Zach, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the amazing work that you do around the world, and how did you get into it all?
Yeah, I will do the best that I can. So I've been a healer for a long time. Been working with people around the world, all different modalities, and even more and more, I've been led out of the one-on-one to just really inviting people to connect with themselves, really connecting to the wisdom, to the profound capacities that are already available in themselves, and all different kinds of ways that shows up. And it's really come from my own journey of following that. My life looks pretty different than it used to look, in all these different areas. And people are always asking me, like, well, how did you get into this? How did you get into what you're doing? And I like to say dumb luck. Just, I had no idea that this is where I was going or what was possible. And so it really was. It's following it one step at a time, and it just one thing leads into the next. And we get to look back and be like, wow, I have no idea how any of this happened or how any of this was created. And so it's very much that. And in my journey that I've come to experience that, it's delivered to me even more than I was asking for, even more than what I was trying to get from life, when I kind of set aside those a little bit and just really let it, like, okay, show me what's really possible here. And every day, I don't pretend to have too much of an idea of what's next or where I'm going. It's like I still have ideas, but we're still leaving those open for all the beautiful possibilities. And so,
When you live in a state of alignment and when you live in that state of allowance, is that you do invite those possibilities to become more part of your experience. And another thing that I love about you is that you've studied a lot of different things, and you in no way try to make one modality or one philosophy the right way. You very much talk about all of them with an open heart. What's your perspective, or what's your wisdom around, like, gaining health and finding health and vitality for the individual?
yeah, absolutely. And when we live in this age where we're bombarded with information, and there's so many. I love when you look at diet, like one week eggs are good for you, the next week eggs are bad for you. And it's, they're always going back and forth, be like, just depends on what website you're looking at. So, um, again, it's this invitation to, like, each one of us already knows. It's like we already know what's in alignment with us. And so it really is tapping that. Like, we can't believe because someone tells us, because, maybe someone really amazing, someone that we really respect, could tell us, like, this is the way to diet, this is the way that you need to do it. And it's like, while that does work for some people, it doesn't work for everyone. And I know that's caused a lot of frustration. That causes so much frustration. It's like, well, why does this work for my friends, but it doesn't work for me? Or how come this isn't working the same? And so it really is about, again, connecting to our own knowing, to our own wisdom, to our own intuition. And so it's like, yeah, what does work for me? And then I see my experience of life is always inviting us back into our own connection. And because we find the greater distance we get out of that connection, the greater we get away from our knowing and our wisdom. It's like,
Say that again. You got to say that again.
the greater life is always inviting us back into our own wisdom, our own knowing, our own intuition. The farther we get away from that, it's like life becomes more challenging. It hurts more. There's more pain. There's more suffering. And pain and suffering is not a bad thing. Pain and suffering it's also a teacher. It's also inviting us back into, like, wait a minute, what's going on here right now? And so, you know, uh, I often remind people that one of the obstacles to any of this, it's like life is always here to serve us. Life is always showing us something. one of the greatest obstacles is when we start thinking too much about it. We start being like, oh, this is pain. How do I get rid of the pain? How do I make the pain go away? But this pain is just inviting us. It's letting us know that we're out of alignment someplace. And so to flip that and going back into to nutrition, it's like, we're eating something, we're doing this diet, and it's like, the way I feel, I know that I could feel better. That's been one of my intentions for the last few years. Just this question of, I wonder how good I can feel. Like, I wonder what's really possible. I wonder how amazing I can feel in this body. Like, how much can I enjoy it? And it's not to get to a finish line or an end. It's like to keep discovering more, because it's endless. It's endless what we can open up. And so, this intuition, this knowing that we all have, it's not logical. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't tell us why we're doing something or not doing something. And so that's one of the reasons why maybe we've got very disconnected from it. It doesn't necessarily speak English. It doesn't tell you why you're eating this, or it doesn't tell you why to say yes to this opportunity and no to this one. But we do know. And I love to point out, we hear people tap into that all the time. My favorite thing to hear people say is like, I knew I shouldn't have done that. And it's like, yeah, we knew not to, but we didn't really have any other evidence. Maybe all the evidence said to do it the other way, or the way everyone else is doing it.
Being that you created some of the results you did with your health, I would want to ask you, what are some of the things that you did consistently throughout the process that helped you yield these results?
Yeah. So one of the things that I was kind of like, that I really knew to do, there was a lot of cleansing this year. So there was just a lot of, we live in an interesting world. There's a lot of everything is a little. There's the water, the foods. It's like there's a lot of extra stuff in there that didn't used to be in there. So I really knew that there's a lot of cleansing to be done this year, and so that was very much a part of my experience. And I've done cleanses. I've done cleanses before. I've kind of always played with it, and there it was. These ones were so easy. Like, I was often doing them in my past, where I would do, okay, everyone, this is the new cleanse. This is the one that you have to do, and I jump into it, and it didn't really work. It wasn't fun. Some of them I felt, some of those totally didn't, like, what was the master cleanse or whatever, the lemon juice and cayenne and maple syrup one or whatever.
I did that for a day.
Yeah. That was like the opposite for me. Like, that did not work for me in my system, even though, like, so many people had wonderful results. And so that's a great example of, even cleansing, like, seems like a good thing, but if we're not doing it, if we're not, like, in alignment with like,
Process.
if we don't know that that's the one for us, or that that's the one that's meant for us to do, then yeah, it might not give us the results that we're looking for.
Right. And that feedback that you gain from that is super valuable, because now okay, this one I'm not going to try. And then maybe you try another one and it's like, well, there's a couple pieces in here that I like. I'll take these with me, and let's try something else, until we sometimes in that way find our own alignment with our own process.
Yeah, absolutely. There is this really funny thing that seems to happen too. It's like, as soon as, just in all of life, like, when we're really, as soon as you really figure it out, like, if you were to figure out, like, this is the perfect diet for me right now, it doesn't take too long before it changes. It's almost like, to turn off my knowing and be like, okay, I've already decided this is the way, and now I don't have to pay attention anymore. It doesn't work. So I've noticed that everything keeps changing, and it's a constant, like, always checking in, like, oh, my body's loved bananas for the last 2 months. Does that mean I automatically eat a banana today, or do I really feel into if that's what my body wants today?
And I have a question for you, because like I've known a lot of people who use that model of being as a way, as an excuse to really indulge in some of their addictive behaviors.
Absolutely.
What's that balance for you? Could you share some wisdom on that?
But I think that's always a dance. Yep, and we can use anything. It's like, as soon as the mind gets a hold of anything, it's like, we can take any spiritual teaching, or we can take any profound wisdom and turn it into to something else, to turn it into just another game to play in the ego again. And so That's the very interesting dance that we do. Um, with self-awareness, it's like, the more that we begin to feel ourselves, the more that we begin to open up to ourselves, it's almost like there's also, we begin to notice how we feel, to notice how I feel when I'm off, and when I'm off in a thought, when I'm off in the future, when I'm off in some place that's not actually happening right now. And that's been a very powerful experience for me. Like, when I notice that I'm not here, if I go off in a thought, it's like it just shows up in me. Like, I feel like I'm doing this. Like, it just feels very shut down and contractive. And so that's always just my reminder, like, oh yes, I went someplace else. I was someplace else than right here. Um, and so with all of these, this continuous exploration, there's, y- yeah, you've seen it, all the silly stuff. It's like we maybe grow out of the ego a little bit and just replace it with a spiritual ego, and that becomes the new dance, and everyone gets to do it. It's we,
A spiritual ego. I love that. I love that. You're going to
yeah,
have to use that example at the greatest year of your life.
okay.
What are your thoughts on that whole process of like setting goals, and what's the wisdom you have for us there?
Let's get even more aware with our goals. Like, let's really feel our goals. Let's really feel what our goals are inviting us to feel. Because, even um, I remind people all the time that, we're not in control of the thoughts that go through our head. If we were, we would only think the things that we want to think. And so trying to control all of those thoughts, that just seems really, really difficult to me. It's like, where those thoughts can come up, it's like, if that thought sends me down a rabbit hole, if that thought can pull me out of this present moment and into something else that's not really real right now, um, then it has something for me.
Yeah, yeah,
And so absolutely, it's like, to explore these goals. It's like, hey, here's this goal. I My personal experience is like, leave it open too.
mhm,
Like, okay, here's the direction that I know to point, and it looks like we're going at this, because you and I both know that we can't even see all the twists and turns that are coming up along the way, that we're going to come across, that the new possibilities that are going to open, that we don't even necessarily know exist right now.
yeah. What the image that pops into my mind? There was like a meme that was floating around. On one side, it said, "What I think success is," and it goes from like a straight line to point A to point B. And then on this side, it's what success really is, and it has like all these scribbly lines going in and out, finally getting to the goal. And isn't even that's the adventure of it for me. It's like setting a target and saying, okay, how's this son of a bitch gonna unfold? You
Yeah,
know, how am I gonna attack this? How am I gonna really, and being aware with the journey and having fun with it. Where I think, as you're talking about, so many people, they set a goal and then they become like they put so much pressure on themselves, and they judge themselves for not doing it right immediately, and they have all these different restraints that really make the idea of achieving goals turned off for a lot of people. But I love what you're talking about here is, play with it, be open to the possibilities.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's like, there's going to be a journey between here and there, and we're just pretending to have any idea what that's going to look like.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, well, tell us more, because I love the way this conversation is going. That relationship with yourself, and I guess as I do this right here, this is where my relationship with myself is. This is where I hold it right here. But Zach, talk to us about that, the importance of having that relationship with ourselves and the benefits of it, maybe.
Yeah. The relationship with self is, it's kind of like human beings are the only, all of nature is doing it very well. All of nature is, it's like, automatically, like, if you're a deer, you don't have to figure out, you don't have this whole list of like what it means to be a deer and what's
Are the
acceptable and
are the
what's not.
humans are the humans fucking it up, Zach?
The humans are turning it into a whole new game. But the just the magic, the like, what we are really looking for. We all think, even the goals, it's like, we think we're going to get that goal, and that's going to, then I'm finally going to feel like I've made it, then I'm finally going to be happy, then I'm finally not going to have bad days anymore. And all of us have experienced that that's not true. We've all met plenty of goals, and it's like, we just have more. This mind just always has more stuff to go for, and so this connection to self, it's what we're actually looking for. We think we're going to get it out there. We think uh, it's like our minds have understood that it's obviously not happening right here. But that is the experience that we're living in, and it's kind of like the relationship to self, and then there's also like the relationship to the mind. And a lot of people spend most of their time in the mind, and so they're not actually feeling this moment. They're thinking they're feeling this moment. They're defining everything. It's like, I have sensation going on in my body, and I put that into a word like, oh, that's sadness. And to pretend like everything that's happening in me fits into this tiny word and concept called sadness. It's like, it's this difference between really being present and thinking we're feeling and thinking we're living and thinking we are, um, doing it all right or doing it all wrong, whatever that looks like.
If we're going to label an emotion, um, if we can consciously maybe label it something that allows us to feel more resourceful and aligned, might be a good strategy to keep that in place. It seems.
One of the things that I show people, like if we have happiness and sadness, it's no, most people are going to, if I say, which one would you rather be, happy or sad? It's like most people would rather be happy. And my experience of happiness and sadness is, emotions or sensation. We could call them frequencies or colors of the rainbow. They're notes of music. It's like, they're not good or bad. They're not, what makes them so miserable or not is actually where we're at with them. And so again, it's like, usually it's like humans are more open to happiness. It's like it's allowed to be here. Like that, we're not trying to get rid of it out of our experience. And so there's more of an openness to happiness. And then sadness, it's like if we've judged it as wrong or bad, and now we're separating from it and trying to get rid of it, trying to get happy again. It's like that's what hurts. It's kind of like we said that red is good and blue is bad. And so every time we see blue, we're fighting against it. And then every time we see red, we're chasing it. But it's like, what hurts so bad is where we've closed off. And what feels so good is the places where we're actually more connected to who we really are, is the places that we're in this allowance, that we're in this gratitude, that we're in this openness for life. And this absolutely begins to change so much. We get to see that all of these places that we avoided,
Front
all
row
of these
seats. Front row seats.
front row seats, yeah, all of these things that we have been fighting against, all of these things that I thought I was up against, all of these emotions that I was so sure that I understood what they were. Um, my experience has been that none of them were, no, not a single one of them was ever what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Like when I finally opened up to it, when I finally let it in, it was never what I thought it was. And so, I thought sadness was like the worst thing. It was absolutely miserable until I opened up to it, and it became the most beautiful thing. It's like the rainbow just got 12 new colors that I've never seen before. It was like, I've never really felt what this really was. I was just in this limited idea, this limited story. I was someplace else and rather being present with this experience.
Hmm.
And
So,
so that's the connection.
do you have any kind of like tool or anything to kind of help people sort of rehabituate to that kind of thinking?
So my two favorite tools in the world are the breath and our feeling, because we can only do those right now. Like no one can take a breath tomorrow. Nobody can feel last week. It's like we can have a memory of last week and feel it now, but we can only feel right now. And so just this connection to these, and we get that, one of the things that set me so free from life and experience was this. It was a long time ago in my healing practice. Just this guidance came through. It was like, if you can understand it, that's not it. And so in everything I've done, I've always reminded people, that these minds are not capable. They need a beginning and an ending. They need a box, and so they're not capable of understanding who we really are and what's
They can
they.
they can take a sample size of it, a
Yeah,
small sample size.
yeah, and they pretty much can only take what they've seen before, what they've already understood is possible, and just maybe reshuffle it back up together. And so that's this piece of our journey. We're like, well, I didn't even know this was possible. Or when we talk about, imagination, it was like when things come in that are beyond, well, like, wow, that's never existed before. It's like, that's not from the mind. That's from beyond that place. So I remind everyone that these minds cannot understand who we really are and what we really are. So let's stop pretending that the story going on in my head is what's really happening here. So I love the question, what if this doesn't mean what I think it means? You know, Again, we're having a feeling or an emotion right now. I'm sure that this is sadness, and as soon as it calls it sadness, it's already got a story attached to it.
Somebody
And
watching you is asking for you to repeat that question again.
what was that?
Somebody
Oh, okay.
watching, yeah.
Okay. What if this doesn't mean what I think it means? And so again, we're like, I'm feeling something. This is anger. I must be angry because of, and the mind's already, it's so good at just so quickly putting the story together. It's like, this makes sense. This must be why. And that's what this is. And there's a great chance that it's not. And so what if this doesn't mean what I think it means? And it's a beautiful way to just interrupt that habitual story. Like, I've got it figured out, and really just feel and be present. Like, what if I don't have to have any words for what I'm feeling right now? I'm just going to feel it. And then we begin to notice that when we're understanding things, when we've got it all figured out, there's a disconnection in the breath. And so people find themselves, breathing very shallow. People find themselves holding their breath maybe 1,000 times a day, maybe 2,000 times a day. It's like really always checked out because we've been living this life maybe where we've been spending so much time in thought. And so thought is the future or the past. It's someplace else. And it's like, wait a minute. This present moment begins to get really magical when we stop comparing it to anything else. It's like to really just be here for this right now, to not pretend that it has anything to do with anything that I've understood before, to not pretend that it's going where I think it's going, but to really just be here, have this, connect to the breath, relax the body into this right now. Some magical things begin to happen.
Tell us maybe how to cultivate a deeper relationship with ourselves, and talk about how the breath may be a conduit to that.
Yeah, I don't know how to do it without the breath. I don't know if it's possible. Um, I was going to say one more thing, just about intuition too. Again, is like we're being bombarded with information. You know, we it's I see a beautiful thing happening in the world right now. It's almost like intuition is becoming mandatory. You know, you
I
can't just
appreciate
you
that.
can't just walk into the grocery store and buy anything on the shelf. You'll kill yourself. You could kill yourself in 5 years if you go and just eat the tastiest thing every single day.
I hear that.
so so it's almost it seems like maybe intuition is being forced. There's a speeding up. It's like we're really being invited into this connection. And I know there's a lot of people who think they're not intuitive, or that's just something that some people have, and it's like that's not the case. It's like we are all so incredibly connected, but maybe it's a language that we haven't been familiar with speaking, and so it is learning this and nurturing this. And the connection to the breath, a beautiful practice for everyone of just connecting to the breath more, like slowing the breath more, deepening the breath more, and spending more time with it in a conscious way. The beautiful thing of people have referred to it as the link between the conscious and subconscious, because it's the only one that you know we can totally do it consciously. And if we forget, thank God that it also keeps going and that it does itself. you know and thank God we didn't have to remember to always do that, or we wouldn't be here. um, but this connection, and we notice it's like the more time that we spend here, relaxing into here, it's like you begin to feel more. We begin to become aware of more. And it's not adding. It's like, we have this idea that it's adding intuition. It's like, no, the intuition is already there. We just have to relax into it. And so the breath is such a powerful way of doing that. um, Again, my experience with breath, I've been a healer for a long time, and I would always watch. It's like anytime when you ask someone an uncomfortable question, they hold their breath. When you, it's like anytime someone is on the edge of a new possibility or an opportunity or some opening, some change in their lives, the tendency is, if we're not present, it's like total checkout. There's a tension that shows up. There's a holding the breath, and so to even be aware of that,
Yeah.
you know, I would say if everyone really looked in their lives, it's like, what are the places that are driving you the most nuts? What are the places that are challenging you the most? And for one, for me, that was always finances was a big one. One day I realized that, wow, when I'm paying my bills, I was holding my breath the entire time. Didn't even realize it for like years and years and years. I was just holding. I was so tense and tight and holding my breath, and it was like I was so checked out because I was in this story that this wasn't good, that I was losing, that here's money I don't have anymore, it's going away. And so that began to be one of my practices, was to be really open and present while I was paying bills.
Mm.
So make sure, number one, that I'm breathing deeply. And yeah, finances changed a lot from then. Like they very much transformed from then. But it's like, if we look at these places that are uh, driving us the most crazy maybe in our lives, I guarantee if you really start exploring that, we'll find that we've been disconnected, that we haven't been aware of the breath. And we bring the breath in there, and it's like now new possibilities exist.
And you're going to be facilitating a session at the greatest year of your life on day two, at the end of day two. It'll be roughly a 2 hour experience with you.
Hmm.
Can you maybe give us a teaser, a little bit more about what you might be working with people on, or the process that they're going to go through for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm always telling everyone, like, connect to the breath more. This was like a supercharged version. This is like, let's sometimes I call it spiritual power washing. It's like, it really, we're flooding the body with extra life force, or prana. And that prana is always, the life force is always going to meet us exactly where we're at. It's going to go heal. And so it heals physically, emotionally, mentally, all of the above and then some. um, People have all kinds of experiences, but my favorite experience that everyone has is it opens up a greater connection. It's like we're removing the things that are in the way of you connecting to you, and this wisdom and this intuition and these capabilities and possibilities that have always been here. We were just sure that that didn't exist, or that wasn't a possibility. So they're very magical sessions.
So
you know,
if you're watching this and you're sitting here listening to to Zach and the wisdom that's pouring through him, you can connect with the heart space he comes at life with, and you'd like to experience what he's talking about with tapping into your capabilities and that possibility. Come join us, because it's going to be really 3 days of that expansion, getting clarity on what we want to go after in our lives, and then moving through. In fact, day one is called Envision, and that's where we get the clarity of the goals we're going after. Day two is called Breakthrough, and that's literally over the course of the day, bringing in amazing speakers and facilitators like Zach, so that they can apply some of their process on helping you overcome that fear that's currently stopping you right now, or that limiting pattern, or that habit that's not really serving you. And Zach is going to be one of those facilitators, and for 2 hours, you're going to be learning the power of his breath work. And then day three is called Whatever the Fuck It Takes, and that's kind of more of a strategy and action day. You definitely want to be there to experience that, and Zach. So Zach, one last maybe snippet or soundbite of wisdom for our folks who are listening right now.
well, let's all take a deep breath right now. And I invite everyone, actually, let's hold the breath right now. Just hold the breath right now for till it gets a little bit uncomfortable. I know that's going to be different for everyone who's listening to this, but when it starts to get uncomfortable, you can let the breath go and notice what it feels like. Notice what it feels like in your chest and your body when you let that breath back in. You probably notice that it's almost like it feels like stress or anxiety, right? And so for those that have experiencing, it's like, what if stress and anxiety were just our reminders that we weren't breathing? What if they were just our reminders that, oh, I was off worried about next month, and it's not even next month. That I was off someplace else. It was like stress, anxiety, overwhelm. These are our teachers. These are reminding us, like, wait, you're just not here. We weren't breathing. And so it is a beautiful thing if stress comes to visit. It's like, oh yeah, to breathe, to relax, to come back to this moment. Who knows what's happening next week? Like, why would I be worried? It's like, it's so easy. It's like the mind loves to worry about all of these things. I wish I could show people, this would be my favorite. I wish I could show people a pie chart of what they worry about and how much of that actually happens.
Yeah. What's the percentage? I mean, because I can.
It's, it's really bad. I don't know if you can see that little sliver of pie on there of what actually happens. But
Awesome.
how much energy do we give to that? How much time do we dedicate our attention to? How interesting has that been to us? And it's like, wait a minute, look at our track record with worry. And I'm worried about this thing and it has me stressed. It's like, yeah, that might happen, but it might not. And coming back to this moment and relaxing and breathing.
Love it. Love it. Well, if you've watched this and you love this sliver that Zach and I kind of carved out here in your day, we're happy that you spent these 20 or 30 minutes with us, and we look forward to potentially seeing you at the greatest year of your life. And if you want to know more about Zach, Zach, what's the best place? Where's the best place for people to go?
My website, zachrehder.com.
Okay. So I'll post it. If it's a Facebook post, I'm going to post it in the Facebook comments. And if this is YouTube, check in the description. Thanks everybody for watching. Zach and I both look forward to, well, I'll just speak for myself. I don't know if Zach's looking forward to seeing you, but I'm looking forward to seeing the greatest year of your life in January.
I'm absolutely looking forward to you.
All right. Take care, Zach. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thanks, George.
Bye, everybody.